This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Welcome to Sound Up. I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, we're talking about acts that are loved by some and hated by others. Have you ever had to defend a band that you love? Well, this is our shot and your shot live.
That is right. On our last episode, Lee Brooks, director of Hate to Love Nickelback, a band and its fans that have definitely had to defend themselves against haters despite selling over 50 million albums and having over 16 million Facebook followers.
But before we get into our main topic and music news, we've got some listener comments to get to on some previous topics.
Yeah, on a recent episode, we discussed artists changing up their beloved hit songs live. The majority of you, and we did this as an online poll, the majority of you said you'd rather hear the songs as they're recorded and not switched up and reimagined.
I concur, 1,000%. Sound Up Pod Squad member Sunita chimed in with this email. I love it when artists change it up during a live performance. I especially love when they try and do a nod to the city they're playing in, i.e. busting out a few notes of Motown while playing Detroit. I also love interpolations or unexpected mashups. I don't need to hear the album version. I can do that at home. Give me something different while still honoring the original. I don't need to hear the album version. Also, tangent, thanks Anita, but please check out what Sabrina Carpenter does to her hit song Nonsense. She changes the lyrics of the outro in every city that she plays. I didn't know this. Super clever and fun. You guys are the best, Anita. No, you are. Thanks for that email.
We love you, Sunita. Also, Mark, I know you're a Girl in Red fan. Did you hear that Girl in Red Sabrina Carpenter duet?
Yes!
That came out last week?
Yes!
Speaking of Sabrina Carpenter, another great song.
Oh, man. Yes. All right.
All right. We got another comment from the pods, another comment from the cheap seats. All right. Our friend Roz says, I have a serious question I'd like answered. What is everyone's problem with remakes? They used to call it that. I still do, but everyone seems to call them now covers. Granted, no one wants to hear a classic song butchered, but mercy. If, number one, the musician makes a classic their own, it's incredible if they can bring notoriety to the original artist. And number two, even if the new version is remotely the same as the original, whether it's good or not still brings notice to the original. Also, does a written song count as a cover if it's newly written for the artist, not written by the musician? At one point in my life, I remember being disappointed when the artist didn't write a song I liked, not because it was a cover, but because it was their own song. But there are a million great old songs that no one knows, yet everyone still demands new music from songwriters who constantly write bad songs anyway. There are also amazing forgotten songs that still deserve to be heard. I'd rather hear a song I've never heard of that was a remake than hear a song that I've never heard before that's new and isn't any good. Please answer this if you can make sense of it. Help me make sense. Why do people hate remakes? Thanks and welcome back from our friend Roz. She said she used to be disappointed if she'd find out that a song wasn't written by the artist who was singing it.
So are you going to hate Nothing Compares to You when you find out it's written by Prince?
I'm not sure, Roz, love you. I'm not sure exactly where you're coming from with this. I
get a little bit where she's coming from, though.
I mean, to be disappointed that that a song that an artist is doing was not written by that artist. I mean, come on.
You hear that a lot from like rock fans, like pop stars. Oh, they don't even write their own song.
Yeah, and that obviously that's like the Beatles syndrome that once these four idiots showed up and started writing their own songs, all of a sudden everybody has to write their own songs. Hello, country music. Thank you. End of story.
My wife will be in the car and we'll be listening to something and she'll like a song and I'll go, they didn't write that. And she'll just turn to me and go, why do you have to ruin it for me? I think because I think there's that belief like that the person singing it is singing something they wrote.
Their truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Truth, right.
I mean, that really X's out a lot of music, I think. And I think a great example is Nothing Compares to You, which is a blindingly amazing cover of an amazing song, admittedly. And talk about what Roz is saying here, brought way more attention to that song than Prince did.
Right.
Well, and Prince hadn't, it was a throwaway.
Right.
It was from it was the family. It was one of the side groups. It was not a song that the world knew. And then everybody in the world knew it. So then Prince went back and he did release a version of
Right.
himself singing it.
You know, I Need a Lover by Pat Benatar's version was much more popular than Mellencamp's version.
And for so many reasons, better. Just the fact that a woman was singing that song 1,000 times better.
Right. And it was a lot shorter.
It was a lot. Well, my God, the intro on that song is like 4 minutes. I mean, it's for us in radio, it's hell.
So I don't know if we've given an answer, but these are, I think, the questions that Roz was getting to here. So still getting a mix, still getting an, I like people doing it the way it, like it sounds, and people saying I like mixing it up.
Right. In terms of live performance, well, we saw the results from our poll, and I understand where Roz is coming from here, but
I wonder to how much, I'm curious, you can send us your thoughts. How much is there still stigma that you feel attached to people who either don't write their own songs or, or again, like Roger's wife, are you disappointed if you find out it's a cover, it's not their song? Like, is that notion of, I want to hear what they really have to say and what they think and all of that, is that something that really does weigh on your mind?
Right. Maybe it is, as you say, kind of a genre specific kind of a problem. That, rock people, folk people, indie people want their artists to be writing their own truth.
Yeah, that's a rock thing. And it's a hip hop thing. I mean,
that is true.
Right?
That is true. Although I think we know that some of the most amazing raps ever were not, somebody wrote that for Dre.
We do know that, but there's always a little bit of like, well, okay, for him, because he's really a producer, we'll give him the benefit, but definitely, the challenge of, and that's why there's, other than sort of novelty covers in hip hop, Snoop and whoever doing Rapper's Delight 40 years later, like whatever it is, it's not really a genre where covers are a thing, because it's just, that's not the nature of what you want to hear from these guys.
You're writing about your personal experience, living in the hood.
Definitely a stigma if there's you don't write your own rhymes.
So we love hearing from you. If you want to send us a comment or a question, you can email us at connect@sounduppod.com. Connect@sounduppod.com. You can email us there. You can do a voice message there as well if you like. But we love hearing from you whenever you got stuff on your mind. And thank you, Roz. Thank you for all the emails that we've gotten based on last week's show. All right, it is time for some Sound Up music news. We've got a few headlines to get to. So we will start with one of the big stories. Alan, geez.
Yeah, so we've got sort of continually breaking news around one of the wilder music news stories of recent memory. And our friend Jem Aswad from Variety is on the case covering latest developments in the Sean Diddy Combs situation, who, through his attorney, has fired back against the government's raids on 2 of his properties in Miami and Los Angeles earlier this week. His attorney, Aaron Dyer, characterized the searches by investigators with the Department of Homeland Security as an unprecedented ambush and, in a phrase that always gives you confidence about somebody's innocence, a witch hunt. So... Jem, thank you for jumping back in on this one. And I'm, day to day trying to keep up with what the hell is going on around this story. What do we know as of now around these allegations and this search for the artist known as Diddy?
I mean, quite honestly, there's a lot we don't know. I have spoken with a couple of attorneys trying to get a sense of where this is going. And obviously the raid is there seeking evidence of sex trafficking, which is defined, I'll loosely define it as forcing or inducing someone to commit some criminal sex-related act against their will.
But across state lines or something, right?
That can be part of it. Like, one of the things they're pointing to, which they also did to R. Kelly, was, transporting someone across state lines for purposes of, illegal sexual activity or, inducing them to do it related to that. I asked one of the attorneys why they went in looking like they were going after Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Right? Because they didn't do that to R. Kelly. What that person said was, I said, was it for optics? And, the lawyer immediately shouted that down and said, no, it's not for optics. Okay. This person has a history of violence, of gun violence in some, allegedly, and alleged drug activity. So they said they were just trying to make sure that their people are safe. Okay. these are really, really serious allegations. And a lot of people are coming up now and saying things like, oh, it's finally coming out. Oh, you didn't know. This has been an open secret for years. Well, all of us have really covered Diddy for quite some time. I would occasionally hear rumblings, whispers about things like that. I've heard from some women since things started to come out that, oh yeah, this has been going on for years. I never heard it to the degree that we did about R. Kelly. I mean, it was astonishing to me that R. Kelly got off in the first place. And, that was
decades and decades.
Yeah.
Of being reported on.
Yes.
That didn't come, out of nowhere. In fact, it was something that was out there very much in public, at least as a question, a concern.
Yeah. And it was flagrant, if not like practically admitted, because he seemed to think he could get away with anything. And people in those positions often do think they can get away with anything.
So how did this escalate? There have been a series of charges and allegations over the last few months. And I guess some of this relates to, as we've seen in some of these other cases, the deadline coming up on
a statute of limitations running out on when you can actually sue.
Assaults who can still sue. But how did that escalate to being a Department of Homeland Security issue?
Well, because obviously they think they have something. I'm trying to remember the name of the Adult Survivors Act.
Yes.
That's the one that, yes.
I believe that's
right.
Yeah,
that's the one where the time is on the verge of running out. But also there were 5 or 6 lawsuits with sexual misconduct involved filed against him.
This is beyond Cassie, his girlfriend's beyond that.
And it includes that male producer as well, who had a ton of evidence, alleged evidence. Mm-hmm. If you look at the complaint, the legal complaint that producer filed, it's kind of mind-boggling how much is in there. He alleges that either Diddy or his son shot somebody in the studio, which they made look like later tried to cover up allegedly as a drive-by shooting and make it look like it happened. He had photos of blood on the floor and stuff like that. There were photos that didn't really tell, screen grabs from videos of sexual activity that this producer supposedly didn't want. But even setting all that aside, when you've got 5 or 6 sexual misconduct lawsuits against you, that's not just a couple, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then concurrent with this, which even confused me more, there's this drug mule arrested on Puffy's private plane in the middle of all of this. What's going on?
Obviously a whole bunch of shit. So, if he's doing it now, if it's all true, if even some of it is true, it's probably been going on for quite a while. The fact that it's now federal shows how seriously they're taking it.
And again, the idea that Homeland Security is involved, I could see where the FBI would be involved if we're talking about trafficking. What is it? Why? What national security issue is there with P. Diddy?
Again, they really only, sometimes, and I'm not positive about this in particular, one of the lawyers explained it, but I honestly don't really remember what the reasoning was, why it's going to Homeland Security. But remember, they finally got R. Kelly on racketeering.
Right.
The sex charges were part of that and the basis for that, but that's what they got him on. So they're looking for what they can get him with, which any good lawyer does.
Right.
It's like you go to court with what you think you can win.
Right.
So, they're obviously looking and, they use that. They probably found enough evidence or allegations to take it federal and get Homeland Security involved. Now, it was very heavy-handed, no question about it. But, someone else speculated that, what was it? I'm trying to remember what the court was. And I'm sorry I'm not remembering as much of the stuff they told me. But there was a court case a few years ago where there was gunplay. And that may have, influenced their decision to go so big as well.
So what is the next thing that happens?
And do we know where he is?
I haven't seen anything since, the video surfaced of him like 48 hours ago in Miami.
I read that he sort of ran off to some faraway island.
Well, but okay, this is what that may have been. Okay. His private plane, which he owns, flew from LA to Antigua without him on it. Okay. Don't know why. He was supposedly in Miami. As far as I know, he wasn't on it. But at the same time, I believe he was, that's when the video of him in Miami took place. Maybe he was trying to leave the country, okay? Because there's another video. And again, like a lot of this stuff is unclear, right? Supposedly he was at an airport surrounded by a big group of people, because he's almost always surrounded by a big group of people.
Right.
And some officials went to talk to him, did not arrest him, did not detain him, haven't arrested. I mean, they briefly detained his sons, I believe. Some people have said, yes, those were his sons who, appeared in the helicopter camera, like being detained, but they weren't arrested. None of them have been arrested yet. Okay. So the next step is they're going through whatever evidence they collected, and it must have been a substantial amount, to see if it proves anything.
Wow. They were there. It looked like they were there at his house in LA. They were there for like 12 hours.
Stakeout.
Yeah. They were there for quite a while.
The sons went back later and got some boxes of stuff. Nobody tried to stop them. I can't remember if I finished this sentence or not, but like when he was approached by officials at the airport, if that actually happened, they may have convinced him not to leave the country without arresting him. And they say, like, his lawyer said there are no restrictions on his movement. I mean, maybe so, but I'm just speculating that that's what happened. Who the hell knows? We don't know. And you've got an awful lot of people, frankly, talking out of their asses. Like that guy who said he was the neighbor and like saw all these sex parties. And then his mother said, it was like that scene out of the Ruddles. He's lying. He's always lying.
Everybody wants to jump in on a story like this. So we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
All right. As a reporter, where are you going to go next on this story? You're waiting for what?
I'm waiting to see what happens. We're looking at everything that pops up, but there is so much bullshit,
right?
That you have to proceed really carefully.
Jem Aswad from Variety, thank you as always. Jem was our first official contributor on episode 1 of Sound Up, and I'm sure he will be back with us again soon, maybe even with further updates on this wild story. Mark, since you are the resident Madonna authority around here, what is next?
The big news, Madonna is set to stage a free concert in Rio de Janeiro as the Celebration Tour finale. And I'll just mention, thanks to Jem Aswad for this story, too. I mean,
working day
and night. She has announced that she is going to conclude this celebration tour with a free show in Rio de Janeiro, May the 4th at Copacabana Beach. The show is going to be free of charge as a thank you to her fans for celebrating more than 4 decades of her music over the course of the epic global run of this tour. Thanks, Madonna, says all of us here in the United States who paid hundreds and hundreds of dollars for tickets. Thanks for that free concert in Rio frickin' de Janeiro. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
If you could do a big free final concert somewhere, you'd want to go to Rio too.
I've never been, and yes, I want to go to Rio, like the song says. No ticket apparently required for this event. Oh, this sounds dangerous. Entrance will be applied on a first-come, first-served basis. The day of the event, the stage will be in front of the Belmont Copacabana Palace Hotel. And this event's going to be broadcast live on TV Globo. That's great. We'll be able to see the disaster. Is that not a disaster waiting to happen, or is that just me?
Open GA free tickets.
In Rio, we've seen those crowds. On the beach.
Massive crowds. Mark, as the Madonna fan, you saw this tour. This is a celebration tour. This is kind of a quote unquote hits tour. Will we see her hit the stage again anytime soon? What do you think?
There's no doubt that she will be back and be hitting the stage. I give her credit on the one hand because even to this day, she continues to reinvent. Look, the last thing that she did was the Madam X tour. And so now it made total sense for her to come back and do this celebration tour, an anniversary kind of thing. But she's not done. Her output for the last 15 years, easy, has been on and off. She's done some amazing music. MDNA, that album was incredible. She's done some great, forays into straight up dance. What is next for Madonna? I don't know, but there's certainly going to be something next.
Never try to bet that one.
Right? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. It may not be another big, arena stadium scale tour.
Right.
Maybe she did this and then she backs off and does something more experimental, more like what the Madam X thing was or something else. Right. But, if she's not saying this is goodbye, I don't think that it's goodbye.
Country album.
Country album. Listen, she's tracking all the other stars. We know she does that.
Yeah, that's for sure. But so while Madonna is ending a concert run, another major 80s act is getting set to return. This is, it's not like they've been gone, but the Stray Cats have announced dates for a summer tour. July 27th in Woodinville, Washington is where it will all begin. And at least at this point, the concluding date is just a few weeks later, August 17th in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's about 24 shows, and it is the original Stray Cats, all three guys, still friends, still alive. As I say, it's sort of, somewhat of a surprise, but not that much. They toured in 2019. They got together and did a reunion album, the tour in support of 40, that album. So, and these guys are quick to say they've been together for so long, they are friends for so long, and even in the announcement, Brian Setzer has said, I've always said that we all grew up in the same neighborhood. So there's an instant feeling between us when we play that allows us to be confident and spontaneous. And that is priceless. And that's what we hear from these guys when they are together, for sure.
And Brian is just one of the greatest guitar players, in my opinion, ever. And Slim's a buddy of all of ours. They're a band that have a really interesting story. And I hope someday someone does a documentary on them about their story and how this band came to be and how they went overseas and became popular before coming back to America, because I think they're a band who should be considered for the Rock Hall and need some kind of reminder of why.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I clearly remember, for me, Robert Plant walking into MTV studios to talk about his album, Principle of Moments, and saying, I just saw this incredible American trio. These guys are incredible. He was talking about the Stray Cats. So
then he's off to the Honey Drippers, and there you go.
Right. So they're going to be back.
While you're talking documentaries, while we're talking about movie projects, the never-ending land of music-based movies, musicals, biopics continues with not quite an announcement. I guess these are still rumors and negotiations. But Jeremy Allen White is looking to go from the bear to the boss. Jeremy Allen White is in talks to play Bruce Springsteen in an upcoming narrative feature about the making of the 1982 album Nebraska.
So it's a comedy then?
Yes, this onslaught of features, music biopics, not documentaries, and some of Selena Gomez is playing Linda Ronstadt, get it. But the announcement that there is an adaptation of our friend Warren Zane's recent book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, The Making of Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska, has been taken on by producers Eric Robinson and Ellen Goldsmith-Vane. Scott Stuber, his first major film project since leaving his post as head of film at Netflix, has joined as producer. Scott Cooper, looking to write and direct, and now rumors that Jeremy Allen White will be playing Springsteen in a movie that I cannot imagine what it is actually going to look like.
Yeah.
Because the story of Nebraska is Bruce Springsteen sitting alone in a bedroom.
Yes.
Fretting and trying to figure out, America and his life and his future.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this turns into a feature film, but that it seems to be ratcheting up pretty quick with real names attached.
So the names that we've heard, great. Warren Zane's obviously this guy. I love his work.
Yeah, the book is great.
Book is great. But I haven't heard boo about anybody in the Springsteen camp being involved in this.
Well, they've said apparently Springsteen and Landau are signed off on this.
They have signed off. So that means, it sounds crazy to say this, but they have the music rights, right?
Well, it's interesting because, of course, he sold
his entire catalog for $500 million. Yes.
Off to Sony.
Yes.
Now, as we've said, all of these new biopics, I think, really are ultimately about these legacy management companies looking for new ways and bigger ways
to monetize,
to exploit these songs. So I think they're all in for these features as a potential way to make some cash off of these catalogs. But this is such a particular thing. The making of Nebraska is so isolated and insular and in his own head.
But if you watch The Bear, Jeremy's character in The Bear is exactly that.
Is that.
And I think one of the things that has made this story catch fire are those two pictures they put side by side of Jeremy and the boss, where he really does have that kind of look.
He's got the messy hair.
But also
Not the hyper intensity.
yeah, it is. It's the hyper intensity look that he has.
Smoldering. He's smoldering.
So this one is really interesting. I mean, again, this as a trend is interesting, but this one really leaps out as that's going to take a real idea and treatment and vision to figure out how to make a movie out of it. And I'm very interested. And obviously we're playing at a whole other altitude if it's not just some weird indie flick, but you're putting a real star in there,
Yeah.
That's a different game.
There's no discussion on exactly when it's coming out. This is in the earliest phases of pre-production.
The book just came out not that long ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time there's been for them to absorb and figure out how to adapt into a script.
The other thing too, I didn't read the story. Does it mention anything about him singing?
It does not.
No.
It does not.
But this is all going to be singing into a, home cassette machine, right? He doesn't have to deliver stadium performances. This is just him sort of mumbling in a, sitting on his bed like that. He can probably handle that.
Yeah. It's a great way to not have to deliver a finished product of songs and have it be okay, have it be acceptable. I love the guy as an actor. I think he's a great actor and he does have the look and he could be amazing in this part. It is fully a question of the script and the vision. It really is. Because as you say, Alan, it's the dude alone in his freaking bedroom. Of all of the albums to choose to make a movie about, this is the one they pick.
If you can crack it, it could be really, really fascinating and could make for something that's really different than these sort of just life performances in some of these films. So anyway, we'll be hearing more about all of them as they keep rolling out.
But, I just wanted to say that, the songs on Nebraska are so story driven that if within the movie they try to kind of show what those songs are about, that could be really cool.
No, it could be a very outside sort of treatment. It could be, a much more experimental sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what it all turns into, but seems to be ramping up quick.
So that is going to wrap it for our fast look at some music news of the moment. But get ready to sound off as we are talking bands that you love that others hate. That is up next on Sound Up.
It's your turn to sound up, right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.
All right, welcome back to Sound Up, our second episode of the week, which is our Sound Off episode, where you get to voice your opinions via voice messages, social posts, emails, or, as several have done today, by joining us live in our virtual Sound Up Pod studio. So before we go to the Pod Squad, do we each have a band that we love that others hate? You got someone, Alan?
I can start, but just the reminder, we're on this topic because earlier in the week we had the director of this new Nickelback documentary, Hate to Love, is the title. So they lean right into that the biggest distinguishing factor about Nickelback, other than that they've sold a lot of records, sold a lot of tickets, is a whole lot of people say that they hate this band. So that's where we're starting from here. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I don't believe in that. I don't think you should ever feel guilty about what you like. But we all know there's things that we've said we like, and your friends are like, the hell are you talking about? That's a bunch of hot garbage. We know that. I think for me, I don't know if it's a band so much as a genre in a way, which is, I think that the sort of, mainstream Nashville country stuff, I will say certainly my friends have no idea where my interest in that, where my fondness and fascination for Kenny Chesney.
I was going to say, give us some examples. Who are we talking about here? Yeah.
Somebody like a Keith Urban, somebody, who is
Garth
big
Brooks,
mainstream, new Nashville star. Those are the ones where I like, that's the end of any conversation with the people around me.
Wow.
And think about it like 20 years ago. I mean, now people have sort of accepted. Okay,
when there wasn't cool country.
When there wasn't, there was cool country, but this was not
for
that.
The rest of us.
When Alan was writing Ice-T covers and then going to see, Garth Brooks.
Well, that is true. I had side by side in the same issue of when I was at Rolling Stone, a Winona Judd piece and a Rappers Talking About the LA Riots piece. So I was, in those, trying to be in both of those worlds.
So that's pretty difficult. Instead of just defending one band, you got to defend an entire genre.
Yeah, it's kind of true. I mean, I guess that's probably true if somebody's going to say metal and my friends don't like metal, like that is often, or we forget. I mean, obviously hip hop now is taken over the world in the way that it has. Being a fan of hip hop in, the 80s, certainly there was a whole lot of people who didn't understand and, pushed back about that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like still so much of, cool music world has not accepted country music as a thing. We're about to find out with this Beyonce record how that's going to, how that's going to redefine anything or shake any of that out. But I feel like that's the one that for me gets the most confused looks of people being like, I don't know why you listen to that stuff.
I'd say it's gotten better though, but I've heard it so many times. Like you ask people what kind of music you like. I pretty much like everything except country.
I like every kind of music except country is a standard line. So, I would say that's going to be my answer for that. I could choose any one of those guys, but we'll go with the idea. So Roger.
Well, I could start with Kiss. I mean, obviously growing up, Kiss was a band you either really liked or people absolutely hated. So there was no in the middle. You were on one side of the fence or the other. But I don't want to talk about them really. One band I do want to talk about is, when I was working at MTV in the mid 90s is when Limp Bizkit broke. I remember there was a day they came in to do an interview and it was them and Seven Dust. So me and my partner had to figure out who's doing what. So I said, I'll do Seven Dust because I really liked that album. And he said, all right, I'll do this Limp Bizkit band. And we both came back and I said, of these two, this band Seven Dust is going to be the one that goes all the way. And then Faith broke.
Bad bet.
And, people forget, like Limp Bizkit is a band people absolutely love to hate. But there was a moment back then, they're on MTV, people have to shut the shutters because there's so many people outside when they're on the show. Go back and watch the Break Stuff video. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Davis, Eminem, there's so many people in it. But everyone claims to hate this band. But who bought all 10 million albums, back then?
Was it the band or was it just Fred?
No, it was the band too.
It was
the whole. Yeah, it was.
He didn't help
I feel like
it,
they're
but...
almost the closest corollary to Nickelback
in
this conversation, right? Those seem like comparable.
A bit of a different genre, sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I think people, started to really dislike, Limp Bizkit after Woodstock 99. Mm-hmm. You really can't say there's a reason why people dislike Nickelback. It's different. It really is.
And even Woodstock 99, as we know from watching the documentaries and everything, everybody hates Limp Bizkit, blames Limp Bizkit. They were doing exactly what they were hired to come and do.
Exactly.
That's the band you get. It's not like they lost their minds and went some whole other thing. So
right. You hire Fred Durst, you get Fred Durst.
You get Fred Durst.
That's right. That's right.
What about you, Mark?
I thought long and hard about this, and the obvious one for me, and it's way more current. I love Coldplay. I do.
It's a good one.
I love Coldplay, and I invariably get hairy eyeballs whenever I say anything like that. And I've tried to figure out where the break was, because initially that first record, they were cool as hell. I was running an internet radio station when that first came out. We had them on and they were really, really cool. And I think maybe, and people, we have people here in our virtual audience, or if you're listening somewhere else, you can email us. I think the moment was Gwyneth Paltrow. I think that was where it all went south. That's my guess. And the whole goop thing.
I don't know which is cause and which is effect.
But that first record really was a very different record too. It's, they were this alternative rock band that was kind of at some, a little bit compared to early Radiohead at one point.
In the beginning, sure.
They themselves compared themselves to U2. And by the way, the first, as great as the first album was, then the next couple also still really cool. They got better.
I did a big Coldplay piece for the New York Times when Viva La Vida came out.
Right.
And even then, people still, there wasn't a big backlash at that point.
No.
There was they made another cool record. There was still good feeling around them. And somewhere that soured.
Yeah.
Somewhere that soured, and they can still sell out stadiums around the world, by the way.
Yeah, that is the thing. That is the thing. It's just like Nickelback.
They did make that jump from alternative rock to more of a pop act.
The other place that I think maybe things went south for other people, not at all for me, was They teamed up with the Chainsmokers.
Mhm.
And the Chainsmokers themselves are one of those, like, those love to hate kind of groups. I love them also. And they teamed up, Coldplay and those guys teamed up and did a song together. And I think that pissed a lot of people off. And they went down that rabbit hole, that sort of dance rabbit hole. And I think they lost some of the pop/rock folks with that.
I think you should transition into reading this first email that we received, because we got some emails from folks about bands they love that people hate.
We did indeed. And screw you people who don't like Coldplay. That's all I got to say. Hi, guys. I wanted to chime in on the topic of a band you have to defend your fandom for. I've been a Coldplay fan since Parachutes and stand 100% by their first 3 albums. This is all we're just saying. I should read these in advance probably, right?
That's why I steered you there.
I love those albums so much and still count A Rush of Blood to the Head among my all-time favorite albums. Me too. I find that as time goes by and they release more albums and work with more often ridiculed artists, Chainsmokers, BTS, I have to defend my love for them even more. Maybe they're not releasing anything as good as their past work, but they continue to be an interesting band with original members who obviously care about one another and also an absolute force on stage. I agree. We did something with them at SiriusXM at the Apollo and they were stunning. Maybe I don't love everything they put out. Maybe I'm waiting for another X and Y, but I'll always consider myself a fan. Thanks for letting me vent. Tara in Staten Island. Thank you, Slowminator.
Backing you up. Slowminator backing you up.
Thank you. Jared Angelo. By my friends.
BITD, back in the day.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know what that acronym was. Bitted, my friends used to give me shit for loving Winger. F them, I'm still all in. I get that. Also, I was with you on that until I met Kip Winger and was stunned at what a smart guy he was. He did this whole classical music foray, written a concert that he conducted and performed, a concerto rather. Now I'm a big Winger fan.
Listen, Beavis and Butthead did not help them at all.
Oh my God. I think they started it. And it was random, I think, for them. They were like, yeah, Winger.
Well, because they were no different, looks wise or attitude wise than a lot of the other hair metal bands at the time. But on Beavis and Butthead, their next door neighbor, annoying friend had that Winger shirt and they abused him, and thus Winger gets abused.
Speaking of that particular genre, one more email to read from Carl in Southern Illinois. Carl says, first of all, so happy you guys are back. You make my drive home so much more enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you, Carl in Southern Illinois. So a band I love that others may hate is Poison. I was a teenager in the late 80s, early 90s. I had a few musical influences from many family members. This is a great list. Dad loved Glenn Miller. My brother was an Elvis guy. My cousin was mid-80s hip-hop. But hair metal, glam rock, however you want to call it, that was the soundtrack of my generation. Growing up, starting to chase girls, partying, loud music, Poison became my favorite band. While I'll acknowledge some of the lyrics are juvenile, I do feel like Brett and the boys always came from a genuine place. Seen them probably 20 times over the years. The live show is still great. Makes me feel like I'm 16 again. Cheers from Carl in Southern Illinois.
Thank you, Carl.
They were a standout on the stadium tour when it first kicked off. When it was Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, Def Leppard. Poison was really strong live. And I get it. Poison was very over the top glam looks wise, but they were kind of this glammy garage band. And I really liked them when they first came out.
And I think Brett is really, really charming.
Yes,
I really do.
He's a great front man.
And he is a great front man. He really bonds with the audience. He clearly loves the audience and supports his fans. So we give him all that.
Some of these, don't you think, and we want to now talk to you guys about this. In some of these cases, it's almost, I don't want to say it's badge of honor because it's sensitive, but some of these bands, some of these genres know that they're going to get a lot of hate. And it's part of it's part of what strengthens the community of the fans who love them.
I don't know. When Poison came out, glam rock was so big. They were part of the biggest genre at the time. I don't think they saw that backlash coming at all. That kind of hit them all kind of smack in the forehead, and it was fast too. It wasn't like this gradual thing.
Isn't backlash itself sort of a modern issue. I mean, in the 70s even.
Well, there was Bee Gees backlash.
Well,
I mean,
like there's the disco backlash, but like band backlash, like I love them. Oh, you're an asshole if you love them.
I think with all of these that have come up here, it's, there's sort of that, when do people start to say they're overexposed? I'm sick of them.
Right.
Like it can only be backlash if they're big enough that you're going to push back against them.
Is it just overexposure? And the nods that we're getting from our virtual audience right here is really, it's fantastic.
Great stuff in the chat. I want to hear them say it though. I want to get it out loud. I don't want to waste it here.
We should jump to them just because I know that backlash is a thing. I feel like it's weird. It's different than the disco backlash. I think it's a different thing.
But that was another. It's too big. It's taken over everything. It's pushing rock out. It was still a sense of this is more than we can take of that.
But why? Okay.
But why? But why is the question?
Why? Because there's so many massive bands. Like, why is there not a Beyonce backlash or, something like that? But so I want to jump to our chat and to our people who are live with us here. First into the chat was Julie. So Julie, I'm going to go to you first. Welcome, Julie. Thanks for joining us.
So, as I put in the chat, I am normally what Lori Majewski would call a first waver. I'm all about the first wave. REM is my band. I had the opportunity last year to see The Cure and Duran Duran on the same weekend. That's my jam. But most of my friends will be horrified when I post next month, May, in about 6 weeks, that I'm flying to Vegas to see Shania Twain. They would be horrified. But what? Except the two friends that are coming with, who both were stunned to hear that I like Shania Twain, even though normally they know I hate country. Sorry, Alan.
That's okay. It's okay. So she broke away from the whole genre, away from whatever you're feeling about all of it. Like,
yes, every album was less and less country till she wasn't even country adjacent any longer. So yeah.
Had you been, Julie? Had you been a fan of hers before? Like, man, I feel like a woman, and those massive crossovers.
Oh yeah. Starting from the early crossover stuff. That's where I first started to like her, and I wasn't in a financial position at the time to ever see one of her big shows before her illness. But it was kind of like a bucket list. Would love to have the opportunity to see her, and this year I can. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's literally a fly in, fly out. I have 3 jobs, so it makes it a little difficult time-wise.
Julie, before we let you go, because we're here, you're people don't see you. You're outside in a beautiful area. The wind is blowing through your hair. Where are you? Where's your vacation?
I am on the Oregon coast. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, but I'm a single mom with 1 kid who is a very proud Oregon Duck. So I picked her up and we headed over to the Oregon coast, which is about 50 steps away from me right now.
Fantastic.
So.
Beautiful.
Real quick, I got to mention, you also mentioned in the chat, you mentioned 2 bands. Put these out there.
Go ahead.
I also got to see them together, as a matter of fact, too. One of my daughter's first concerts, other than Rick Springfield, like mother, like daughter, first concert was Rick Springfield, who I've seen about 50 times. But I took my daughter for her second concert to see Matchbox 20 and Goo Goo Dolls together. I love them. Again, not my normal genre in any way, shape, or form, but love them. And I've seen them both numerous times since.
Matchbox 20 would definitely go on this list.
Yes.
Would definitely go on this
I know
list.
The derision is real, believe me, but I could care less.
And he's it's the same thing. He's such a great songwriter, and the songs are great. He's got a great voice, right? It's all the same things. Like, what?
Yes,
why?
And, I don't care what people say. If I like it, I like it. It's my money I'm spending, not theirs.
Do not dare diss the Goo Goo Dolls. They're one of my favorites. Platinum plaque right here on my wall. Johnny, Robbie, love the Goos.
My very favorite song ever, as much as I love REM, is Slide.
Nice.
Great song.
All right.
Great song.
New stuff coming from them, I will just say.
It's so funny, this category. Matchbox 20, I'm going to say, somebody's going to say it at some point if they're a fan, but Creed and then leading into Nickelback, these were when I was editing Spin at the time, and you would look at these bands and you'd be like, they're selling millions and millions of copies. Can I put them on the cover of a magazine? Or are more people going to hate it than are going to like it? But there's tens of millions. Somebody's going to buy it. And those were the biggest struggles, right? Where those bands of like, what do you do when you know, the backlash will be immediate, but the fan base is so big. How do you play that?
Right. Let's jump to Kieran, who is also outside somewhere lovely. So if you hear wind whipping through his hair, you'll understand. Kieran?
Oh, the weather's too good here to even have problems with the wind. Actually, earlier I was going to say Poison. I still have somewhere the Open Up and Say T-shirt that my mom hated.
Yes.
From when they toured with, I think they opened for David Lee Roth when I saw him. But since somebody already said that, I was going to say maybe in '93 as I was finishing college, a female singer-songwriter came out that I actually got the CD for free at Taco Bell. And it was Fumbling Towards Ecstasy by Sarah McLachlan. Never heard of her, never heard the album. And I'm like, oh my God, this whole album's really good. And put it aside. Then at some point later, she did some song for an ASPCA or Humane Society thing.
Come on, you haven't seen that commercial?
Yeah.
I have to change the channel.
It was always on. And I couldn't even admit that I liked that first album a lot, which is funny because she's actually touring this summer, I think, in the anniversary of that album. But yeah, it's like a secret, thing that I'm like, God, I really want to see that show, but I hope she doesn't play anything from Mirrorball onwards because I can't take it.
God, I wonder if did you wind up having to slide into defending all Lilith Fair artists? Or
it was always a good excuse for to ask a girl on a date.
But there again, another situation where great songwriter, really, her songs are fantastic. She's a serious artist. She's not to be made fun of. And yet, is that it? One false move? You write a song for one commercial that's going
to for a benefit to take care of animals. They let them use your song,
idea.
And
it's the picture of those sad dogs with bandages on their heads and
out in the cold.
You just now associate that to her immediately because it was on and it so much. It might be on right now somewhere.
It's on somewhere right now. Of course it is. Absolutely.
All right. Jim in Maryland.
You want in?
Hey, guys. So thanks for having me, first of all. And I'm sorry I'm not outside. It's rainy here and very dreary, so y'all don't want to see that.
For us too, man.
So I grew up in the 80s, and I kind of began to get my musical taste in the 80s. And I happened to really glom on to probably the most uncool band at the time, which was Chicago. Right. So you have
Chicago in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
And it was so hard to defend because they had such great stuff that that those first 4 or 5 albums are just amazing, right? And then they get into the 80s and it's this
they drop the horns.
yeah, it's all synthesizers and all that kind of stuff. And I grew up outside of Baltimore, and so there's Hammerjacks is really big and all that stuff. So you have a lot of really rock and roll sensibility there, especially with the crew that I hung out with, right?
Right.
So everybody's just looking at me like, who the hell are you? And then I get to college, and that's my first exposure to rap and all that stuff. And my my roommates just thought I was from another damn planet. So it was it's the oddest kind of band to try to defend at the time.
But it is that we all say, oh, Chicago in the 70s. Okay, fine. Chicago in the 80s. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
They were bigger in the 80s.
It is so true.
Absolutely. That's when they had their massive #1 hits and all that stuff. And now it's
David Foster started producing them, right? And
that's where it all kind of went, I think, south when he started writing with Cetera and producing them and dropping the horns, bringing in the keyboards. It was a different band, basically.
But again, they dropped the ball, except they had bigger hits and more success. That's the thing. It's an easy story if they did that and then everybody turned on them. It's another thing if they did that and it brought a bunch of people in.
Right.
Exactly, which it kind of did, right? I think that turned away, I guess, the core audience from the 70s, because when I started listening, I really fell in love with that early stuff. But you know, it was nice to have some of the power ballads because it was good to have one dates and things like that. So, you know.
That's a good hate to love, too, because there was an established fan base who then were pissed off that they'd lost the bit. So it's not even like you hate them from jump or hate them as they get bigger, but hate them as they change lanes and you've got to totally wash your hands off them.
Absolutely. And then if you get to the 90s and they're still releasing music, for God's sakes. But, you know, the industry's kind of passed them by. So now it's just the hardcore fans are the only ones that really kind of listen anymore.
Still touring.
They are.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that documentary last year that was the Chicago story. Like they're doing fine.
It is, and they happen to be great live. They actually, the horns come back live. I'll just say the horns are back.
I got to just mention, Kieran mentioned in the text, Maroon 5.
Oh, another one, yes.
It's another one that just should enter this conversation somewhere.
Yeah.
Band that played the Super Bowl, awful, that no one will look you in the eye and tell you that they like.
The Super Bowl isn't where things went south, though.
No.
Do you think it was with Adam
already
going on and being a judge on a reality show? Was that it? Or is it just overexposed, like that damn voice of his again, that great frickin' voice?
Overexposed, taking off his shirt. I don't know what.
Taking off the shirt, the tats.
It's another, like many millions of people love them, but I can't find one myself.
I'm telling you, there should be a bands that you love to hate cruise or tour and put all these bands together. And
the fans just
oh my God. I was just going to say there wouldn't be nothing but fights. It would be fights on board.
Be a side stage where you could let's set up like a WWE, thing going where fans could just go at it.
Oh man. I'm sure we could probably come up with a few more of those love to hate bands. And in fact, if you think of a couple, we're all ears. You can feel free to hit us up, connect@sounduppod.com. That's where you can reach us for anything, including any responses you want to give us to this topic and to bands that you have to defend from friends who think you're an idiot for liking them.
So before we're fully out of here, we got a concert review from a fan from a listener that we want to play. And also, Mark, you had a quick concert review that you wanted to give.
That's true. Yeah, so I wanted to do a quick concert review. Last Friday, was invited to go and see, and was so glad that I went to see Fall Out Boy with Jimmy Eat World opening. And both of those bands, I didn't realize how many great songs they both have. Jimmy Eat World was phenomenal. They have a ton of great songs, and they're just a straight up great rock and roll band. Great vocals. They sound as good live as they do on record. Fall Out Boy, I gotta say, sounded amazing. And also, they brought it with the pyrotechnics. Oh my God. I literally was so glad I wasn't any closer, because there's like the first song, there's like flamethrowers all over the place, literally like giant flames and explosions. And that just continued all freaking night. Part of me was like, this band wants to distract us. They don't want us to be looking at them. Just listen to the music. I felt like it got to that point where it was so much and so overpowering.
That's a Taylor thing. That's a Coldplay thing. Right. But that, at least they're controlling. So, hey, listen, we got a concert review emailed in from our friend FJ in Bloomington, a sort of hometown review of a John Mellencamp show. So let's let FJ weigh in with thoughts on that show.
This is FJ from Bloomington, recording a concert review about John Mellencamp's show in Muncie on the 22nd. So he started off with a showing classic black and white films, which I thought was a great opener, and it also left a little reminder at the end that everyone in the audience needed to be polite and courteous. The set was absolutely gorgeous. They had lights, some mannequins dressed up in different attire, it seemed, from the movies. There were some sirens, and there was a city street backdrop that was illuminated and colored differently depending on which song he was playing. John came out in coveralls that contrasted the rest of the band, who were in black tie apparel, I guess to, really emphasize his working man image. And then, as discussed on the last one of the last Sound Up episodes, with his incident when he called out that fan, made it a point to let the audience know numerous times during the show what was going to occur during the show and how his shows were different than others. You weren't necessarily going to get all the hits all at once for the whole time. And then back to another topic that was discussed on the show recently. He did Jack and Diane acoustic, which I loved personally. I thought it made the environment more intimate. So I thought the show was great.
FJ, thank you very much for that. You can do the same thing. You can reach out to us. Connect at sounduppod.com. You can do the voice message. You can do the email. You can ask for an invitation to join us on our Sound Up, Sound Off show. Either way, that is going to wrap this Sound Off show. Go to www.sounduppod.com to find out how you can be a part of our live Sound Up, Sound Off podcast taping and become part of our Sound Up Pod squad. Once again, connect at sounduppod.com and hear our song picks at our Spotify Sound Up soundtrack playlist.
Listen, if you have the chance, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen to Sound Up on, and we will catch you next time right here on Sound Up.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger Coletti, and distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Theme music by Smile from Tokyo. Get Sound Up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, email us at connect@sounduppod.com. We'll see you next time right here on Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light.